Hello, I'm Bob Massie, and I am the co-host of Creating the World We Want, a video podcast that helps us look into the future and figure out how we can build the world that we all believe we deserve. I'm here with my co-host, Tom Dodge, and very happy today to have our guest as Setti Warren.
And we're honored to be at the house of Governor Michael Dukakis,
Dr. Atyia Martin,
Reverend Vernon K. Walker, Don Berwick, Francis Moore Lappe, David Delmar, Councilor Lydia Edwards.
Jennifer, thank you so much for coming.
What are the main categories you see that humanity has to work on to enhance our civic systems to push forward towards a bigger, brighter future for all?
Well, I'm of the mindset, personally now, that the big generation-defining issues that we face today are climate change and economic mobility.
In every single other developed country on earth, everyone, no exceptions, healthcare is a human right. They may not say it, but they act it. People in other countries don't hesitate for a minute to use the term solidarity and to act that way. There's this basic sense of being in it together.
This frame of scarcity then is everywhere that I have been trying to dissolve and replace it with this sense of a world in which we are all connected in continuous change, and so therefore we're all co-creators. Nothing is fixed and scarce.
Why do you think the media focuses more on sensationalism rather than the long-term problem-solving, thought-provoking stories?
Hearst didn't show up yesterday. I mean, tabloid journalism goes back a long, long way. And it's always going to be with us. But if we want to deal with that kind of stuff, then those of us who believe that there's a much better and more positive future out there have got to hone our press skills. I mean, we've got to take the press seriously.
One of my fears is that we're not talking about public policy right now in the media. We're talking about the horse race. Mm-hmm. Who's up, who's down, who won, who lost. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, what we're not talking about is what policies are in place or not in place to address the defining issue of our time, economic inequality, defining challenge of our time, climate change, right? Mm-hmm. In this program is an example of it. How do we, the growth of this kind of discussion, mm-hmm. this format, mm-hmm. maybe the answer is looking at these new mediums and having this kind of conversation, the kind of journalism that could actually have growth.
As Malcolm X said, the media has the power to make the innocent look guilty and the guilty look innocent, and the media has the power to create and people's perceptions about what reality is about. And so I commend you for using the media outlet and using this media outlet as a tool to raise up issues of systemic inequalities, to raise up issues that the mainstream media doesn't want to touch.
The actual workforce, educational institutions, policymakers, and employers. Mm-hmm. Ideally, in any community, those four groups of people or those four institutions are working together to make sure that people can grow up here, go to school here, and work here. There is a complete lack of communication and coordination among those four bodies today.
Racism is sitting on top of issues that previously exist in our society in terms of our overall culture and how we frame things. So we are not a naturally introspective culture. It is not the Western way, right? And so the idea of self-awareness and self-reflection is not as prominent as it needs to be.
We are not building for families. We are not building for our middle class. We're not building for workers. And until we do, you can build all you want. It doesn't trickle down. Housing doesn't trickle down. It is a segmented market. So if you want prices for student housing to go down, you build student housing. Building student housing doesn't help families though, and their prices to go down. You need to build more family housing. And that's what I think a lot of folks get confused, and there's certainly a division even amongst progressives.
So how do you think the creatives out there can work more closely with government?
I think that there is a whole movement right now around artists becoming more civically engaged in government. So there is this emergence of this field of practice called socially engaged art and social practitioners who are artists who really aim to embed their creative practice into existing community issues. So these are artists who are seeking out community-based organizations to get involved in and then finding a way to lend their creative expertise.
As Dr. King said, change never rolls in on the wheels of inevitability, but it only comes when people of goodwill actively protest against these structures that exist.
Could you discuss some of the major takeaways you had from running for governor of Massachusetts? What did you learn? Can we look for some overlapping themes here for our state to continue pushing forward?
Structural challenges that prevent elections from being the full debate on what we want to be and do in the future. I think that was something that I found I expected, but it was worse than I realized, and something that I'm hoping we can, help fix in this kind of show.
My campaign was 605 days long. It's ridiculous.
I did 521.
And when we both know. Election cycles should be short and publicly financed. If I spent 70% of my time on the phone or in fundraising endeavors, when here we got, a climate that's cooking, an education system that's letting our kids down, a healthcare system that badly needs repair, that
no place to live.
No place to live, and we need an electoral system where those issues are what we're talking about.
Why can't we have voting on the weekends? Why can't we there's all sorts of creative things to make it more flexible and easier for people to be able to vote. To wait in line, people have shifts. How do you ask people to, you got kids, you got this. It's really on a Tuesday, right? So I just think we got to step it up.
I learned that it was not about how much you can raise in terms of dollars, it's how much you can raise in terms of an army of door knockers. And so we hit those doors, and I knew that that's how you're going to win, that a grassroots movement based off a consistent message that is transparent, that speaks to a person's needs and realities, and that is consistent. So be truthful about be truthful about who you are and what you're going to do, and people will recognize it's real.
What's my most important vision? A world in which war is ruled out as a means for settling disputes between among countries, and we stop spending trillions on weapons of war and start spending them on the kind of thing that I think most of us think is important.
The very heart of democracy is the fulfillment of human dignity for each and every one of us. Yes, we can be these competitive little selfish creatures, but if we create the context that brings out our cooperative nature, and that is democracy, then we can all experience dignity.
I would like to see us as people be able to have more humility, be open to learning and growing in ways that actually challenge us, and that we allow ourselves to be in that space of discomfort so we can grow.
We can't hurt our planet anymore with climate injustice. We have to do something about these 140 million people who are suffering from the crippling and damaging effects of poverty. And we have to be able to help them achieve the American dream, because we know that education is the way forward.
I believe that every generation hears a call, right? And it's incumbent on us to choose whether or not we are going to rise up to that call. And I believe every region, every city, every state has to determine what are the unique challenges and the unique assets that people have in how they respond to that particular call.
I've also been around the world, and that idea of solidarity, that we are committed to each other despite differences in class or origin, is such a powerful idea. And in some ways I think it's actually an American idea, but we've lost the terminology and we've lost the practice of it.
Yeah, now it's almost, you're not supposed to say that. It sounds socialist or something where we're wrong. But creating the world we want, is, don't we want that?